Welcome back to the Deep Dig Sports Pod. I'm your host, Drew. My other host right here in our new studio.
What's up? It's D. Good to see you again. If you're watching this for the first time, this is a new studio. If you've been following with us and rocking with us, pretty nice, right?
New studio, new drinks. We're drinking Prime now. We're Prime guys.
We're douches. Today we're going to be talking a whole bunch of stuff. So 49ers quarterbacks, Trey Lance is training with Pat Mahomes. Brock Purdy has a brace. People are calling him RoboBrock. They've met with a couple of the young guys in the NFL draft. We're going to be talking about Bryce Young being the number one pick. Jalen Hurts just got paid a chunk of change. And Lamar Jackson maybe was offered $200 million guaranteed. We're going to talk all that, but before we get into that, go ahead and hit that like button. Go ahead and subscribe to this pod. Hit the follow button if you're following on audio. If you're on audio, we are on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, we're on audio.
Yeah, and we're going to start with Trey Lance because they dropped an image that he was training with Patrick Mahomes. We haven't really discussed this yet. Is he primed now? Not to name drop the prime right here, but is he primed to be day one starter and make a name for himself? Or do you think this is all just it's too little too late and Sam Darnold's going to be the guy for the 49ers? They're putting all their energy kind of into Sam by paying him and just bringing him in.
I don't think there's too little too late. I think this training camp is really going to decide what his future holds. And even then, it might be too little too late. I'm thinking, the way I see it, if the Texans do not take a quarterback at number 2, which we'll talk about it later, they might not. Maybe Trey Lance is a viable option for them, and you offload him on draft day, just like Aaron Rodgers is going to be offloaded, and you get what you can for him at this time, because you did make a substantial investment. Even though it wasn't crazy Lamar Jackson or Jalen Hurts money, it was still a pretty good chunk of change for Sam Darnold. You've been heavily looking into quarterbacks in this year's draft, and you still have Brock Purdy, who's going to be nursing back to health. I don't know, man. I think it's this. I've never seen this happen before, where it's a quarterback that didn't really get a chance, that is over here making a world tour with, training with Pat Mahomes, training with all these different guys, and you still feel like maybe the team's just going to move off of him. I don't know.
Zach Wilson gave him hell when they were training together?
I could see it happening. He said, "Is that your mom? Where your mom at? Where your mom at?"
Oh, his mom probably, Zach Wilson's mom probably thought Trey Lance was an older gentleman by the way his hairline.
See, I'm not gonna. We're not talking about.
I don't want to put that karma on me. I'm sorry. Let me take that back.
No. I'm so ready to go. So I turn 30 next month.
Damn.
Fuck you. You're a piece of shit. Anyways, I'm so ready to go bald. If it happens, it's not happening yet. I need a haircut. My barber's out, but I'm so ready. As soon as it starts to creep, I'm ready to I'm ready for it to go. But what do you think about the quarterback, Trey Lance? Is he going to be the day one starter?
I'm 50-50 right now. I was all last season, the beginning of last season, I was all in
You're Trey Lance guys.
Trey Lance, he's going to be the future. He's going to take over. He's going to put up 10 rushing touchdowns, 20 passing, and be amazing. And now I'm kind of at the point where at the end of the season, I'm a Brock guy. I think he's the future of the team. And I just didn't see enough when Trey Lance was on the field. Yeah, he was hurt. He didn't play much. But I just saw, when we went to training camp even, flashes of amazing throws here and there, but it wasn't consistent. It was a mix of interceptions, bad passes, and amazing throws that you would, want from your franchise guy. And so now I'm to the point where, man, he's going on this world tour of training. Is he, going to take the world by storm and put up an amazing, 3-game run to start the season and be the guy? Or is he just going to be another quarterback that we missed on and just falls into nothingness, So I really don't know which way it's going to go, but he's taking the right steps, I think, to still be a guy. I give it to him that he's not someone who's complaining about where he's at. He's not someone who is shying away from the situation. a la Zach Wilson of like, man, I'm not going to put in the work, like, fuck this team. Like, no, he's like, I'm going to go out here and work, and I'm going to work even harder because, like, I think I could still be, like, a franchise guy. So, man, I really want deep down for Trey Lance to be, like, the franchise guy. But the way I saw Brock Purdy run this offense, like, I think he's just, like, who I would pick right now. And I would love for Trey Lance to get traded and for him to be a starter somewhere else.
I would love that.
I would love that I would love for him to become a star quarterback somewhere else and Brock Purdy be a star here, or vice versa. Like, I think both of these guys should get their shine, and I think that's what was leading into our next topic, where 49ers are kind of searching the draft a lot. They're meeting with a lot of quarterbacks, and so do you think this means that Trey Lance could get traded during the draft?
I think if the buzz is real that the Texans are not going to draft a quarterback, that's a quarterback that D'Amico Ryans is, one, very familiar with, and two, it's not Davis Mills anymore. You know what I mean? It's not like you can sell that to a fan base like, hey, we got 1 year of a guy who was very, very talented. He's not this guy who's, we know we're going to lose with him. Let's go ahead and take a flyer on it. And if it doesn't work out, we're in a prime position next year to take another top quarterback. And this is not our guy. We didn't draft this guy. So it's kind of, wash our hands of it and just be done. Or we sign him and he's a backup, a really, really cheap backup for years to come. And maybe he develops later on. You never know. I think that's a very real possibility. Honestly, this offseason has gone pretty crazy as far as quarterbacks. I think everything we expected to happen really didn't come to fruition. I think we were expecting a Tom Brady, to Las Vegas scenario.
I will say, I said since the beginning of last year, D'Amico Ryans will be the Texans head coach.
You did call it.
And I said Jimmy Ward or a linebacker would go with him.
Yeah,
so
you called it.
So some things went as I expected. Just want to throw that out there.
And with that, like, why would the 49ers be looking into these guys like a la Jake Haener, a la DTR, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, who are going to go in that 3rd to 4th round when you have Trey Lance, Sam Darnold, and Brock Purdy? You can't keep all 4 quarterbacks on the roster. If you get a guy that high in the draft, and let's say you do like him, one of those guys has to go.
I mean, let's be real here. Like, the 49ers, if they were going to make a move for, like, a backup quarterback, like a rookie quarterback in this draft, this would be the draft because they're loaded at 3rd-round picks and 4th round. They're loaded in the mid-round picks. So all these guys that are projected to go there that actually look pretty good, they're right there for the picking for them. And I think I'm seeing Tennessee have a lot of meetings with top quarterbacks. So they're definitely in the market for a quarterback. If Trey Lance could get traded to Tennessee, then that leaves the door open for the 49ers to bring in a DTR, a Jake Haener, like someone like that in the mid-rounds. Do you think that's a possibility, like Trey Lance draft day trade to Tennessee or something like that?
I could see, honestly, maybe, but I feel the buzz is that the Tennessee Titans are going for a top draft pick. They are going for 3, and now maybe even 2 is in play. Because, the Texans aren't going to take a quarterback. So is that now just trade bait? Are they going to take just best player available? Like, what are the Texans really going to do? And does someone want to leapfrog the number 3 because, hey, 2 is better than 3. We'll have our shot at our guy. So I'm really interested to see how it's going to play out throughout the draft.
Yeah, and all this is because Brock Purdy is injured. And what's the latest news on that? I know he got the cast off, or what's going on?
He has the brace on.
Yeah, he has the brace going. That's what it is.
So he has the brace on right now. He did report to involuntary workouts, or involuntary. Show up, motherfucker. Brock Purdy did show up to voluntary OTAs, which is a good sign, obviously. He was quoted. I know he was doing a little bit of press. He actually was quoted as saying, honestly, I'm not really sure if I can play this season. But then the rest of the article went on to say, all the quotes about how he feels good, how he's able to take the brace off at night and do normal motions, as he said, and that he feels like, taking it one day at a time is the best approach for it, and that he feels pretty good. So You know what I mean? You have the bad is like, hey, I'm not sure if I'm going to play this season. But then you also have the good is like, hey, I feel good. We're taking this one day at a time. Do you think it's just a thing where he's being a little bit like not pessimistic, but not the most optimistic?
I think he's just a very like humble guy, and I think this is just like he doesn't want to put any narratives out there. Like he doesn't want to be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be back like week 4, and then like that's really a media circus for him to like. If you put a timeline on this, like a strict timeline, every week that he doesn't come back at the end of that timeline is more and more pressure on the team, more and more pressure on Brock Purdy, and more pressure on like a Trey Lance or Sam Darnold who's starting. Like, I think the way the 49ers are going to play this and the way Brock Purdy are going to play this, they're going to be vague about everything. And Brock Purdy will be back whenever Brock Purdy's back.
Do you think he's on track for week 4? Or when everyone was doing the calendar math before he had the surgery, people were saying it's going to be at the end of training camp. Which one do you think, if you had to put your money on it, is it end of training camp? Or is it week 4? Is it done for the season? If you had to put money on it.
I have no clue right now. I'd put my money on, like, week 8. Like, I feel like they would want to slowly bring him in, even if he was, say, ready to go week 4. I think it would be like, hey, let's not throw this guy in. Maybe we're 500 right now. Maybe we're 1 win over 500. We don't want to like ruin this guy, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so I really think the 49ers are going to slow play this because I think Kyle does really like Brock Purdy and he thinks that that's his guy. So I think he's definitely not going to not play next season. That's where I'm putting my money. He's playing next year. Because just like the amount of time, I don't see how we went from he's projected to possibly be ready week 1 to not playing at all for a full season. Yeah. So I don't see how that timeline jumped so much within this show. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there was something that in the surgery where they were like, fuck, like, let's not leak this, but I don't know if he's going to play.
Yeah.
But I find it hard to believe that the timeline was either week 1 to week 4 to not playing at all.
Yeah, and that's the only thing, like, if it does creep into week 6, week 7, week 8, will he get the spot back?
That's up for Trey Lance. And then I was even saying, like, Sam Darnold's young enough. Like, yeah, I'm not saying Sam Darnold's a great quarterback, but Sam Darnold is young enough to where if he shows out and impresses Kyle Shanahan last season was impressed by the last pick in the draft to make that guy their starting quarterback. You don't think Sam Darnold could come in, impress all the coaches, and win them over in order to be like, hey, let's roll with this guy for the rest of the year and then see what happens? Like, if any quarterback impresses Kyle Shanahan right now, they have an opportunity to take over this team. That's any quarterback.
It's wide open. And that's where I'm thinking, like, optimistically for Brock Purdy. I do think Brock Purdy has a really good chance to run this offense very efficiently. We've seen it. He needs to be back week 4 latest. Like, you cannot give these guys these shots to even look good for 2-game stretch if you're Brock Purdy. Because realistically, what they can do is just shelf you. Hey, you know what? You know what, Brock? You're going to be back in week 8. Like, let's just take it slow. Let's just, you are done for the season now. Like, let's just, slow play it. And we're going to roll with the hot hand. We've seen that happen multiple times in multiple places where people will roll with the hot hand. And, hey, if you ain't on the field, you ain't on the field. You know what I mean?
Kaepernick, Alex Smith.
Yeah. So, I think for Brock Purdy's sake, it has to be week 4 the latest, and then he gets his spot back. Anything other than that, and a quarterback is showing out, your spot's at jeopardy.
Well, let us know in the comments. Do you guys think Trey Lance could be traded on draft day? Do you think he's going to be the starter and could maybe win the job? Maybe Sam Darnold plays well and gets day 1 starter.
Do the 49ers draft a quarterback?
Yeah, let us know in the comments.
Pretty crazy.
But we got to move on. Buddah Baker wants out of Arizona, and that's just a whole shit storm going on over there. Talking about the number 3 pick and where the Cardinals sit. Everything that happened, do the Cardinals have potential to be the worst team in the league this year?
100%. I 100% believe they have the potential, not only because the division they play in is going to be tough. I feel like the Rams are going to bounce back. The Seahawks were actually really good, and all they're going to do is add pieces, a la a Jalen Carter or whoever is there at the number 5 pick. And the 49ers are the 49ers. So you're going to have a bunch of really tough games just in your own division. And honestly, I did watch all of the Hard Knocks last year, the in-season Hard Knocks last year with the Arizona Cardinals. Buddah Baker is a guy that every single team would want. He's one of those players that just puts it all on the line, and you could tell in the opening episode, he cries because he fucking hates losing that much. And he tells them, I'm fucking sick and tired of losing. I can't do this anymore. And he pleads to them, please, pick it up. Let's go. But look at who's gone. J.J. Watt, A.J. Green. Like, all these guys.
D-Hops might get traded.
D-Hops is out of there. All of these older veteran players who were supposed to take the leadership role because the franchise quarterback is not a leader. It could be a shit show. And Kyler Murray, you know what I mean? Who knows how long he's actually going to be out. He did have a video coming out where he's doing squats. That's cool. But you just never know as far as injury, what's going to take place and how your rehab is actually going to go. There could be setbacks. So whoever's playing quarterback, it's going to be a tough go of it, dude.
And I have a tweet from Ari Mirov, sports guy on Twitter. Cardinals current reality. Kyler Murray recovering from ACL. Buddah Baker request trade. DeAndre Hopkins likely gone. J.J. Watt's retired. Zach Allen gone in free agency. Byron Murphy gone in free agency. Zach Ertz recovering from ACL. And their owner was recently accused of cheating, discrimination, and harassment.
Oh, yeah. And they already had, like, people did hate that franchise already.
And they got ranked, like, worst in all the facilities.
And facilities and things like that.
Charging their players for food.
Yeah, so it's not a free agent destination. Nobody really wants to go there. Their best pick is what they got to do is just build through the draft again. It's going to be a complete reload. You're going to have a lot of young players. Can this guy even coach? He left the Eagles, and people were trash-talking him, saying it was his scheme that lost them the game. So, and that wasn't like, oh, the fans shit-talking him. It was literal players. So, is this guy, like, I've said it before, potential to be one and done. And if they are in that position where they are the worst team in the league, they have the number 1 pick in the draft, you taking Caleb?
Oh, yeah, I'm dumping Kyler in a second. Kyler's not even playing. Like, he keeps getting hurt at the end of seasons. You had to put a clause in to make this guy study film. And, like, say what you will about it, where, oh, we took it out. Like, you put it in the first place. You felt strongly enough that this guy doesn't. And then even the guy that they fired, and who was it, the GM or whatever?
Steve Keim.
Steve Keim was saying, like, yeah, Kyler has bad habits and doesn't study. So
he wasn't fired. He walked away. So let's be clear on that. He was not fired. He walked away.
And so, yeah, like, I'm definitely drafting a quarterback and, like, hoping that he's a generational guy that just solves all my problems. But the problems lie way deeper than just quarterback for this team.
Oh, yeah. It's an entire rebuild. We've seen, and not only did Steve Keim come out and say, like, hey, you know, I love Kyler, and the only thing he does need to work on is, you know, him hitting the study room, him really making sure that he's a student of the game. This is not it doesn't behoove Steve Keim to trash talk a guy that he picked very early in the draft. It does not.
But why would, if I'm a player in the offseason, why would I go to the Cardinals facility and train there and study when they're going to charge me for food and they don't have, like, the great equipment? Like, yeah, they got great ratings on the staff, but all the facilities got F. So why would I go there and spend my time getting better and learning?
Probably because we paid you over $100 million and you're the franchise guy.
Well,
that probably has
that money is getting all set because then I got to go pay millions of dollars.
You got to pay $5 for a chicken sandwich. Shut the fuck up.
No.
Like, bro.
The facilities. Like,
yeah, it's trash.
Yeah, then I have to go spend my money out of pocket to go get better stuff outside of the team and then you're telling me that I'm not studying, but like I can't come here and study and like put in work. So
Dang, I did not know you were a Kyler defender.
no, I'm not defending Kyler.
No, it's
but
okay.
I'm saying like it's a whole like the team could say that, but then Kyler can say like, well, you
I'm
guys
not
are
in here because
you're not setting me up for success as well. Like
Yeah.
this is some bullshit, and it's just gonna go around and around. Like why? So like I'm just saying like if they complain, why aren't you coming in? Why aren't you doing this? It's like why would I come into this bullshit? Like
Yeah. Which quarterback was it when he got drafted? Do you know this story? When he got drafted, he bought PS5 and the new Xbox because then he checks on game days or before game nights. He checks to see who's online.
was it Najee Harris?
It is. Yeah.
And he tells him to go to sleep.
Yeah. That's what they got to do with Kyler.
That's not the. They don't have the leadership and they don't have that mentality in that locker room.
So we could see a shit show, and I'm here for it.
So I'm saying, like, dude, the Gannon coming over, you would think Buddah Baker would be the first guy, and there was a video like that was he went and talked to, and he did the fireworks, pew 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 pew, and they were like, that's the second Buddah knew he wanted out. But yeah, that's a guy that I think Gannon would want to build around and want to work with on the defense side of the ball. And when I'm thinking like, where could he get traded? Wouldn't the Eagles love Buddah Baker right now? They just lost Garner Johnson. That I would, in a heartbeat, make the trade for Buddah Baker, go to Philly.
If I'm Gannon, I just say no.
Yeah.
You have to keep him in your building at all costs. You have to convince this guy, hey, just ride it out with me. I swear we will make it right. And so, like, you build around Buddah Baker. That is a staple of your culture. A guy who just loves to win so bad that he's going to elevate the rest of the team. I think if you're Gannon, you have to just put your foot down and say, we are not trading you. We are not. If you want to sit out, you can sit out. But we have years on your deal. If you're going to sit out years, I'm prepared. I'm going to be here.
And it's going to be interesting. I know you talk about the NFC West, but the NFC as a whole is just getting better.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be tough sledding all around. Like, the Lions are getting better. Panthers should be better if they get a quarterback. Everyone in the division. Saints should
got
be
a lot better.
Yeah, should be a little bit better.
They got a lot better. Honestly, I have the Saints down as winning the NFC South.
So, let us know in the comments. Do you think the Cardinals could be the worst team in the league next year? It's odds are stacked against them, so let us know. But let's go from one Gannon team to a former Gannon team, the Eagles. Jalen Hurts signs the biggest new money contract of all time in the NFL. I believe he's getting highest paid per year.
Yep.
As a quarterback. So, what do you think of the deal? Do you think it's gonna work out long? I did hear from like Florio and everything, because the details of the contract haven't come out fully. That people were whispering that it could be 3 years, $100 million, and then the Eagles have an option to get out of it.
I think guaranteed it's 170. But it's a total of like 250 something, right?
Yeah.
But
he was saying like there's rumblings that after 3 years, there's an option for like them to pull the plug if like he declines or isn't the guy they thought. But what do you think so far of that deal?
I mean, it's worth it. If you have a guy, you have to lock that guy up. I think that this shows the Ravens like it can be done, and it should be done. Like, you have a guy who, by all accounts, wants to be in this building. You have a guy who wants to get better constantly. When he came in, he was not the thrower of the football that he is today. And that comes from hard work, due diligence, being familiar with your receivers, and being confident in your game. And Jalen Hurts just leaps and bounds, is a much better player than what he came into the NFL as. I think this is well-deserved, and I think that moving forward, it's not going to be a hindrance to the Eagles. I think as we're going to see the cap go up, so they can continue to build around, and realistically, they can always kick the can down the road. So, do I see like it putting them in cap hell? No. They have one of the best GMs in the league who can really work the money and has no problem trading away pieces for younger pieces. And to be completely honest, he does a really good job of that. He does a pretty good job of understanding people's, body clocks and when he's gotten the most out of them and when he should move off. So if anybody's going to do it, it's going to be Howie.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna say, I know people are harping on like Lamar Jackson. Why didn't you sign that deal back then? And there was like rumors that it was a similar deal to what Jalen Hurts just signed, and like people were saying like maybe you should have an agent. He's fighting back. Other players pushing back. Jalen Hurts' agent Nicole Lynn, just want to give a shout out. Says she's the first black woman to represent a player in the Super Bowl when Hurts played in the Super Bowl, and she got the biggest deal of all time for a quarterback. So,
And do you know how she signed him? DM. She said she threw a Hail Mary DM and just said, hey, I'm not sure if you have representation yet, but if you don't, I would love to just connect with you. And so, shoot your shot. Whatever you got, whatever hustle you're doing, go for it.
I just know I've been following her on Instagram for a few years now because I think she's been with Jalen Hurts since like the beginning.
Since the beginning?
Yeah, and I've been a Jalen Hurts fan since college. So, shout out to her. And Lamar, get you an agent that will get you paid.
That's all it takes. Like, understanding, hey, okay, like, this is guaranteed money. And so one of the pushbacks I actually seen, did you watch the Pat McAfee show where he talked about this?
No.
So he talked about it, and they were going through, and I believe Rap Sheet was like, oh, get on Twitter and go to SG Ellison, and she'll break down what the Lamar contract was given. And she said that after 1 year, it would have been $200 million guaranteed. But there was it was the kicker, like, okay, well, no one's going to move you off of 1 year. So technically it would be that $200 million guaranteed. But instead it was like 130 something. That one, remember how they came out and like, oh, they're $100 million off from where. So that was the initial like signing bonus that they were off. But in total guaranteed money, and she was like, it's really unfair that the Ravens are being lumped in as they lowballed him when realistically it would have been in a true guaranteed money on par or above what Jalen Hurts actually got.
And Lamar seeing it, and he's just like, well, why don't you give me my money now?
Yeah, well, then he came out and was like, cap.
But he doesn't have an agent, so he's not releasing statements. He's not, like, pushing back in the right way. Like, we don't know what's going on other than, like, what the Ravens are leaking and then what Lamar tweets out. So it's just, like, it's just a whole shit show.
This could all be clarified. Send a screenshot.
Yeah.
Send a screenshot out and be like, hey,
if you're already being petty and tweeting about
this is what they offered. But the Ravens want him. I think they do want him.
They signed Odell Beckham Jr. for a shit ton of money, who hadn't played in like 2 years.
He didn't deserve that bag. That was
a Lamar move. Yeah. If Lamar didn't want to be there, why is Lamar FaceTiming Odell second he got signed?
Yeah. So
there's your leverage. Like your leverage is gone, Lamar.
They want to sign Lamar. Like I'm of the. I just flopped on this.
But they want protection.
Yeah.
Because he's getting hurt at the end of seasons.
So it's one of those things. They want to make him the highest paid. They don't want to guarantee it. I don't think anyone wants to guarantee it. If you look at this deal, it's a very good deal, but it's not fully guaranteed. No one is doing the Deshaun Watson. I don't think even when Joe Burrow gets his deal. I think now this is the new blueprint. Hey, this is what we're going to do. That's the guaranteed money, but we're not doing a fully guaranteed deal. I think that's going to be the blueprint, and Lamar's going to have to.
But that's the thing. He doesn't have an agent to tell him and like bring down his ego and say, "Listen, you're not getting Deshaun Watson deal. You're not getting that guarantee, and so we need to like readjust to make sure you get the best deal possible." Like he just has his foot in the sand. Like, give me $200 million plus, and like we'll be good.
Yeah.
And he's like, give it to me guaranteed, and we're good. And I think he should just do a 3-year deal. All of the if Jalen Hurts deal is like a big deal, but true 3-year and then like opts out or whatever, like that's what's perfect for Lamar because then you could get more money.
Yeah, you're 28.
Yeah, that's like prime pay a quarterback money right there.
Yeah. So it's gonna be weird coming down the stretch, especially what if Joe Burrow gets done. If I'm the Bengals, just fucking pay him out, bro.
Yeah, just do it.
Pay him out.
Because then you don't want the Ravens to get desperate and overpay Lamar, and then Joe Burrow's like, give me that money.
Hey,
give me that.
You know I've actually been much better than him, right? You know that I'm one of the faces of the league, right? So
Who says no to that Jalen Hurts deal first, Lamar or the Ravens?
probably Lamar. I mean, if the reports are correct, Lamar already said no to a bigger deal. So it is what it is. And one of the things too is like, bro, you're a quarterback. You're gonna make all of your money. Look at Derek Carr. Derek Carr had a very it was like a 50-50 contract. But because he plays quarterback and he's a good starting quarterback, he's going to hit all of his incentives. You know what I mean? What is it? Oh, okay. Touchdowns, games played, and what else? Playoffs.
Yards, playoffs.
So it's like he's
Pro
going to hit.
Bowl.
You're a good, you're a top 10, top 5 quarterback. You're going to hit all the incentives.
Yeah, I mean, they gave him Odell. I don't think that's enough. For me, I would be like, you guys gave me Aguilar and Odell. Well, it's not enough to make me stay, but I don't think Lamar cares about that. He's like, oh, I got a buddy here, and like, if you pay me $250 million, I'll stay.
They chose the easier of the two. It was supposedly it was go get me D-Hops and Odell Beckham. And they're like,
D-Hops.
Yeah, but you have to make the trade, and then you have to pay the guy. So they took the lesser of two evils and just said, fuck it, we'll overpay on Odell Beckham, who hasn't played in 2 years.
Lamar, who's like being difficult in the situation, and then OBJ and like his personality, it just seems like a headache for Baltimore. But let us know in the comments, is Lamar going to stay a Raven? I mean, at this point, it looks like he is, but should he sign for more than Jalen? Should he sign for less? Let us know where you guys think. Where's Lamar at? Last thing we want to talk about today, I know you're a big Bryce Young guy. I'm not so in on him, but
he's the future.
It's basically like, because we were saying earlier that the Texans are out on a quarterback. Do you think that's because Bryce Young is now looked at as the number 1 pick? And
yes.
That was what the Texans wanted, was Bryce Young?
100%. And I called it when the Panthers made this trade. It's either they love Bryce Young and they are going to draft him number 1, or they're going to fleece the Texans and try to get more picks from them and still get the quarterback they want at number 2. And that could still happen if they do love Bryce Young, because they've been the Texans have been tied to Bryce Young since day 1. Since the offseason started all the way through, it's been Bryce Young. Now, the Panthers, supposedly, after meeting with C.J. Stroud and making this big show of it, are now on the Bryce Young train. I guess Daniel Jeremiah supposedly accidentally on air leaked that Bryce Young scored the highest out of that, what is it, S2?
Is it
Cognition?
Yeah.
So the S2 cognition test, which basically tests decision-making ability and quick thinking. So he scored the highest, and supposedly one of the big backers of the S2 test, or one of the big believers, is David Tepper, the Panthers owner. And supposedly a guy who scored very low, which they won't say how low he scored, is C.J. Stroud. So I think that was one of the indicators of like, no, you know what, we need this. If it's a tie going into it, that broke the tie. So now it's Bryce Young and then C.J. Stroud. And another supposed, I've actually heard that the Texans are they're not going to go C.J. Stroud because he's represented by the same agent as Deshaun Watson. So that's kind of off the board for them. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, before we talk about Stroud and the Texans, just focus on Bryce Young. I don't see it. I don't see why he should be the number 1 pick. I think he's really small, and I don't have a thing against small quarterbacks because, got a quarterback in San Francisco. He's looking pretty good. He's hurt right now, but Brock Purdy, smaller guy, smaller frame, but he looks good. I think just Bryce Young's frame is so small. And I watched a really great video today of, The Ringer's Ben Solak. I don't know if I'm saying that right. But watch that video. He does an in-depth breakdown of Bryce Young, like how his size is affecting his throwing and his dropbacks and his timing. And I think it just shed a lot of light on like why I don't feel right about him being one of the top quarterbacks. And his size is just such a factor on how he positions himself, how he plays, and it can affect him, like timing wise and throwing wise. So I don't know. I don't see it. I don't like. There is times where he makes amazing throws, but it has to be the perfect pocket. He has to set his feet, and he doesn't have amazing arm strength to offset when he doesn't have the perfect pocket. So if he goes to a team with a bad line, like that's it.
It's a wrap.
Like he's not gonna be like this amazing talent where he's just Mahomes like sidearm slinging it and like, flicking it like Justin Herbert like 50 yards down the field. So, I mean, and then we're talking about like this like Kyler Murray, Lamar, like running quarterbacks, but like specifically Kyler, like smaller guys breaking down at the end of seasons. And I'm just like, man, one guy falls on Bryce Young wrong, like that collarbone's gone. And then what do you do then? So I think C.J. Stroud, bigger guy, could throw the ball downfield. I think he played at a pretty high level. I see him as being like a solid, not a star quarterback, but I see him being like a solid franchise guy. And then outside of that, I think Anthony Richardson and Hendon Hooker have more upside for me. Just that's the people that I would go for, the quarterbacks I like. I see a lot of star potential out of them, but yeah, I don't see it in Bryce Young.
Me or you, and you are on like complete opposite as
Yeah.
far as this. I think Bryce Young is going to be a star in the league. I think like if his body can hold up, and I know it's going to be a big if, Tua's even bigger than him. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be the one thing where I am scared. But as far as like the quarterback, you can't convince me that C.J. Stroud was a better college quarterback this year.
But what does Bryce Young do that's so special? Like, what does he do? Like, he's not a great, like, crazy mobile guy.
He's not.
He doesn't have amazing arm strength. He's not, like, perfectly accurate. Like, what does he do that makes him so special?
In the red zone, he's like Aaron Rodgers. He is super accurate when it comes to tight decision making. He's cool, calm, and collected. I think that his decision making and thought process, obviously, when tested in the S2 cognition test, went through the roof because he can really decipher and he's a student of the game. And I think he wasn't rolling out there with Devontae Smith, Henry Ruggs, and Jerry Jeudy out there. He had a bunch of guys that he really had to elevate. And he was going against the SEC teams, which are the best in college football. Now take C.J. Stroud. C.J. Stroud, I don't want to shit on him, but I don't see it. I don't see him being, he's probably, just a, borderline starter in the league.
And that's where I see him as
borderline starter, where it's like,
I see a lot of, like, the level of play. I see, like, Geno Smith in him. Like, that level of starter.
Maybe first year Geno. Yeah, like, where he struggles a lot.
Oh, you don't want to shit on him, but
I don't want to shit on him. But,
I mean, I will give you Bryce Young. In the film I even watched, in the red zone, he's crazy fast with his decision,
dynamic.
and he's able to do some insane throws within that short, like the small falling apart pocket in the red zone.
Yeah. And so, where I think C.J. Stroud gets knocked is it was too easy for him. He had the best receiving core in a division that isn't really known for its defense. And even then, he's not a guy that doesn't like to throw into tight windows. And we've seen guys like that struggle in the league because even then, the windows are much smaller in the NFL compared to college. And he didn't even want to throw it into college windows. So for him to be like, all of a sudden want to pull the trigger, I don't see it. And to be like, okay, well, if he plays like he did against Georgia, he's going to be awesome. Well, guess what? He didn't play like that his entire college career. Except the one game. So you want to really play it off the outlier game?
Well, okay.
Cool.
Now that we kind of talked about Bryce Young, let's just end that and let's do one really quick wrap-up thing here.
Okay.
Because we're talking about the quarterbacks of the draft. Can you rank the quarterbacks that you have, like, 1 through 5?
Easy.
Easy, okay.
1 through 5. So, Bryce Young,
Mm-hmm.
Anthony Richardson.
Mhm.
Then I want to go me personally,
I feel like our lists are gonna be a little wacky. So
I'm growing more and more on Will Levis, then C.J. Stroud. Number 5 for me is probably gonna be a toss-up between. No, it's gonna be Hendon Hooker.
Okay.
But I wouldn't take him in the first round.
no, yeah.
No.
For me, I think I'd go Anthony.
I change it. I'm not putting Hendon Hooker. I have a bunch of beef with Hendon Hooker. We can do a separate video.
Watch the Manning on ESPN Plus. There's like the Archie Manning's
Quarterback camp.
and the Hendon Hooker video. It's amazing. Like I really was like, damn, he's impressive. I really like him even more now. So watch that, guys. But yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, like, you can't translate what he did in college because it was such a gimmicky offense.
I think he has a high ceiling. I think he can go.
It hurts him. It hurts Jalen. Was it Jalen Hyatt? It hurts them both, that offense that they played in. But go ahead. Your top
Okay,
five.
I'm number one pick. I'd go Anthony Richardson. Why are we overthinking this? He's an insane athlete. He has the best arm strength in the draft. Let him learn. But I think he has the highest ceiling. His ceiling is explosive through the roof compared to everyone else. So I'd go Anthony Richardson number 1. I'd go C.J. Stroud number 2 just because I think he is the highest floor. I think he's gonna be a starting quarterback and he's gonna be pretty good. Then I would go probably Bryce Young there. But I still don't feel great. It'd have to be mid first round for me, and I don't feel good about Levis. I'd probably go Hendon Hooker 4, and then I don't want to put Levis 5. I don't feel great about Levis. I'd probably go a Jake Haener, even though I don't think he's gonna be a great a starting franchise guy.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's gonna be a solid quarterback in the league, backup wise.
Okay. My question is, what makes you feel that Anthony Richardson, off of 1 year of starting, where he didn't really have that great of stats, is number 1, but you don't want to put Will Levis, even though he is as toolsy, or he is as athletic, at number 5?
I don't he gives me Tebow vibes with the buffness. And
all that unnecessary buffness.
Yeah, all that unnecessary buffness. And from what I saw from him playing wise, I didn't like it. Just I was, and I think it's just maybe not so much on him, but more of the hype machine of right when he came out, everyone was like, this guy might be the number 1 pick. This guy's gonna be top 3, and it was why? He looked terrible in his senior year, whatever year he was last year at college. And why are we handing him this label just because he's throw strong? And I think Anthony Richardson, he at the combine just showed outrageous levels compared to Levis. I don't think there was a close comparison. Richardson.
No, Richardson, it was
a monster.
Yeah, it was unheard of what he did.
And so I see that and I'm oh, look at Lamar. Lamar, crazy athletic. I think Richardson could be Lamar. And so when I see that, I'm let me throw that guy in. And when I look at Levis, I see terrible decision making.
Yeah, okay.
I'm I see a strong arm with terrible decision making. And so that's where I'm super out on Levis. But I mean, maybe he cleans it up. Maybe. But I just don't see it at all. Mm-hmm. So that's why I would, at 5, I'd probably put him 6. And 5, I would rather go a solid backup in the mid rounds, a Jake Haener, DTR, someone around
Max
that.
Duggan.
Well, I think he'd be a good leader, in the locker room, be a solid clipboard guy.
Yeah.
And even if I wanted to swing for the fences and be hey, it's the 5th round, you never know, who could hit, and we have to feel good about our foundation. Maybe Stetson Bennett.
In the 5th fucking round? No.
5th, 6th, 7th round?
No, it has to be the 7th round, and it has to be late.
I'm just throwing it out, okay, he's athletic. I like what the throws that he's made in his college career. And if we could turn around his personality, his attitude, we really get him in our system, I think he could be a good backup quarterback.
Okay.
I'm just throwing it out there. Yeah. But yeah, that's I think all we got for today.
Yep, that's it. Yeah.
Let us know in the comments. Is Bryce Young the number 1 quarterback in the draft? Yes.
And be sure to subscribe, throw all them comments in. We really appreciate it.
And from our new set, we'll see you guys next time. This is where we'll be for the next couple months. So let's talk some ball. We got some more React stuff coming pretty soon. We got a lot of different stuff coming. So make sure you subscribe.
Subscribe.
Thanks for hanging, guys.